Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. It's me, Ari Dasset, Rashid. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. Please hit the like button, share this live stream, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel. Do not forget you can donate the links below. If you want to have a one-on-one consultation, the fees and more information are also in the description box below. And don't forget you can check my novels on Amazon. And for those who are willing to contribute to our project or our company in Guatemala, you can hit the donation link too. Write Guatemala to your donation. Thank you very much. Or contact us by email. That's an option too. If you wish to invest equity or do capital investment. All right. How are you all doing today? Let me know in the live chat. How are you all doing today? By the way, if you're in traffic, driving a car, pay attention to the road. Stay hands-free. No traffic access on the my watch. Thank you very much. But anyway, when it comes to cold cases, I've made many live streams of cold case before. I even discussed some cold cases in depth. I gave my anthropological and sociological take on it. I also gave a spiritual and historical take on them too. I mentioned this before, but not many of you catched it. Now, if you're new to the channel, you haven't seen my previous live streams or videos about cold cases. But there's a question. A lot of people are thinking, but they're not willing to speak it out loud. Sometimes people think certain things that they want to speak out loud. Why? Either because what they're thinking is not popular, so they want to get backlash from the people around them. That's not being a coward, it's being realistic. I mean, just because you're able to say something doesn't mean that what you say won't have any consequences. Where consequences are just natural consequences or enacted consequences by other people against what you said. Or maybe what they're thinking and feeling is not even correct. Maybe they have issues against certain people and they can't even explain why they have issues. It really comes down to they want to face themselves. So that's why they don't act out their dislike towards people verbally, because they know it's going to backfire on them. And let me tell you one thing. People know very well where and when they can get away. At least most of the time, they know very well where they can get away expressing what they think and feeling. I mean, if you have a liberal attitude, but you have conservative businessmen around you, and your company needs those conservative businessmen for finance, you are going to censor yourself, or let me say, you're going to weaken down your liberal viewpoints a little bit. If you're conservative, but you're dealing with a lot of liberals around you who are a bit antagonistic towards your conservative opinions, you are going to be a bit more diplomatic about your conservative viewpoints. People know very well they can't get away everywhere with everyone saying whatever they want to say. Okay? So if people are blunt and insensitive towards you, and they act like it's just the way they are, they're just being blunt, just being direct, they're lying. They will not be as direct and insensitive towards a police officer, a judge, a tax authority worker, or you name it. And let me tell you, if you carried a gun, would they talk the same way towards you? No, they wouldn't. If that's just the way they are, that means that they will act that way everywhere. And even if that's just the way they are, they it doesn't mean they're entitled to act the way they are. I mean, if someone is a nasty individual, are we saying, well, they're a nasty individual, so that they just do nasty things? No. We would expect them to behave themselves or be constrained by others. So even if someone is horrible, toxic, whatever, they have to own up to how they are and improve, become better as human beings. Okay? So people use an excuse, well, just the way I am, or that's just the way people are, or they come with excuse like, well, you have to let go of the past. They come with all these so-called positive statements that are nothing but a gaslighting. Listen, we cannot change the past. That's true. Murmuring and complaining about the past will not solve anything. However, we need to take the past into consideration in how we behave today. If someone never gave up uh, the fairy tale attitudes, if someone never gave up escapism, if someone never even acknowledged that they have the obligation to improve or become a better and safe human being, if they're not even making effort to become better and safer human beings consistently, why the heck should we even be courteous to such an individual? Such an individual made plain they don't give a damn about the community nor anyone else. They don't even value themselves properly, because if they did, they would avoid wickedness and want to be a better, safer human being. But the fact this individual is baited in negativity, and they act like it's their right, and you just have to find a way to deal with it. Why the heck would such individual even get consideration for the community in the long run? Listen, there's this saying in Germany: if a Nazi sits at the table together with 10 other people, then you don't have just one Nazi at the table, you have 11 Nazis at the table. It's a saying from Germany. Well, I kind of paraphrased it when it comes down to the following: if someone's an evildoer and you associate with that evildoer, you become part of the evil they're doing. Now, look, if there's a supermarket that sells delicious donuts, and you have criminals from the street going there after buy donuts, and you go there to buy donuts too. Okay, you have criminals from the street going there to buy donuts, and you buy donuts over there. Does it mean now that you are involved with criminal activity? No. I mean, criminals are human beings too, who also may like to eat donuts. So just because you go to the same place to get your donuts that criminals go to, does it mean that you're now associated with the criminality, that you're part of the crime world? No, you're not. I mean, there are criminals eating fast food, like going to, for some, McDonald's. So if you went to McDonald's to eat, even though it's up to you if you want to go there, if you went to McDonald's to get some food, and some child molesters went to McDonald's too, so you have the same McDonald's restaurant somewhere. You have a child molester went there regularly, and you went there a few times. Does that mean now that because you're in the same space, in a similar activity, that automatically you're yoked together, you're linked together? No, you're not. So, yes, there are people out there with horrible pasts. There are people out there who are questionable, and they're not improving, not changing for the better. You know what? It's not your fault. It's not you. Okay? And sometimes such people are your employer, or their colleague at work, or their neighbor next door, or their family-in-law, some of your own relatives. So just because in daily life you may, out of necessity, over practical reasons, have to deal with people like that, doesn't mean that you're automatically associated with them. However, your involvement with such people should be limited as much as possible. Anything beyond the mere necessity will be involuntary involvement with them. And if you're voluntarily involved with someone that's questionable or proven to be wasteful, then then people are going to question you too, rightfully so. Where am I going with this? When it comes to cold cases, there's one thing that a lot of people ask themselves, but they don't dare to even say it openly because it's a bit sensitive and controversial. It may upset people. The question is, if you put in the title of the live stream, are solving cold cases worth it? Let me tell you, if if solving cold cases would bring nothing but closure, solutions, and improvements to the community, do you think there will be any cold cases left? Okay, there's a question asked over here. I want all of you to answer this. Unless you're driving in traffic, now pay attention to the road. I have a question for you all here. For those who are not in traffic driving right now, we're able to answer this. If solving cold cases brought nothing but closure, improvement, and solutions for human communities, do you think there would be any cold cases left? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. What do you think? So, I want you to consider that if solving cold cases, because a cold case is a crime, it's a violation of human life and the human community that happened. Let's go deep with it. A cold case is a crime that has not been resolved due to public resistance. So solving cold case is actually solving crime. If solving crime would bring forth nothing but improvement, closure, healing to the community, people would be all in on solving crime. And a lot of people involved in law enforcement, as well as a lot of people involved in the court system, they believe that solving crime will lead to solutions and improvement of the community. Okay, that's what they believe. And as an anthropologist, I look at the facts. I look at the receipts. And let me tell you, solving crime may increase crime. Now, this is not always the case, okay? But solving crime may increase crime. Well, let me say it differently. Solving crime will not always lead to improvement and solutions. First of all, the violation or the damage that happened already happened. You can't undo the past. You can't undo the trauma. That's one thing. So when you solve the crime, all the facts of the drama of the trauma and the injury, as well as the scandal, comes out, and it's going to be public for everyone to look into. Also, future generations can look into it once it's public. So the chance is, if the scandal was so horrible, that it may harm the reputation of that community or that town or city for decades to come. I mean, a horrible crime could happen 40 years ago in a city. Until this day, you see the financial consequences, which is the city has a lower reputation. And because of that, a lot of businesses don't want to invest in a city. And because that's a low employment rate. But a lot of people today would not connect the low employment rate of today with the crimes committed in the past. I mean, if a place, for example, let's say you have a married man, and that married man was taken advantage of by his ungrateful wife, and the men she was cheating with were well received by the community. And let's say now that one of these the affairs that the wife had, that other guy molested their daughter, and people around knew it but allowed it to happen. And the husband went to confront the perpetrator who molested his daughter, and it ended up in him killing the guy. Now, if this case is solved, the guy goes to prison. People still consider what O'Donnell made it. This man went to confront a guy that molested his daughter. And the confrontation ended up in a horrible way. But O'Donnell made it, how come this guy even got away with molesting the daughter? Oh, because his wife was cheating on him with a questionable individual. And people around knew it, at work, everywhere. How come nobody intervened? So people had an issue against a man who was of good quality. There was a man of good quality that was working on himself, improving, And the community, instead of praising him and supporting him, they facilitated his wife to do him dirty, even to the expense that their daughter was molested. How would this make the people in that city or that town look? Now, would you become? I have a question for you all. In such a case scenario, would you feel comfortable moving to a neighborhood like that, or moving to a town like that, or there were the people like that living over there? Would you? Let me know in the live chat. Would you be comfortable living amongst people like that, moving to a town or city like that? Let me know in the live chat. No, you wouldn't. So if you're not willing to live there, would you even are you willing to be are you willing that that your name is associated with a place like that, with such horrible people who facilitate mistreatment of good quality people, and even led to a child being harmed? No, you want to stay far away from people like that, and that's it. So let's go back to the example. Let's say now there was this good quality guy that was taken advantage of. Eventually, his ungrateful wife went so far that she cheated on him with a child molester who ended up molesting their daughter. The guy went to confront them and ended up in a bloody fight, and the father ended up killing the other guy. Now, let's say there's a police investigation, and the chief investigator realizes this is a huge scandal. It will haunt the city for decades to come. It could be that from higher up, that police detective gets an order to pause the case indefinitely. And before you know it, it's a cold case. Or it could be that there's insanity plea being given or thing like that to make the quality man look worse, whatever. Well, likely it may turn into a cold case. Why? Because look, if the case is solved and the reputation of the city goes down, you're going to have a lot of people don't want to be not going to be motivated to go to work every morning. A lot of people will not be motivated to wake up every morning to go to work. So you're gonna have more unemployment. You're gonna have more people at work feeling toxic, because in the back of their mind they're going to be haunted by the fact that we have low life people in this city who even allowed bad things to happen to a child. I mean, that's not going to be a good motivation to live with. It's not a motivation at all. We also going to have entrepreneurs and foreign companies moving away from the city. So more unemployment. More unemployment means more difficulties for people to pay rent. So more people likely to take alternative routes, whether it's in criminality or the gray areas. So you're going to have more crime to deal with. You're going to have more arrests. You have more court cases. More prisons maybe have to be full. And who's going to pay for these prisons? So let me say it like this: if a police investigation, if the conclusion of a police investigation could lead to an increase in social unrest, domestic violence, and public scandals, there will be political pressure to either dismiss this police investigation or to delay it. It will happen. I'm telling you, solving crime does not always lead to better outcomes in the community. You think if they catch the killer who killed that individual, or you think if they catch that rapist or who 10, 20 years ago most sexually assaulted or raped someone, you think that by catching the direct perpetrator and putting prison time on them, or put other sentences on them, you think that this is going to lead to people behaving better. You're going to have a safer community. Well, I have to break your bubble over here. It doesn't always solve anything. As a matter of fact, let me reveal something onto you, and this is something a lot of people are not willing to hear. They're going to fight Not well admit this, but a lot of local communities out there, the reason why they're so close knit together is because people deny the past. Listen, do you know that there are many families out there that have deep-rooted family scandals that are never discussed? It could be that you have this close-knit family somewhere. Um, Everyone has either has full-time jobs or they have their own business. It could be you have this family somewhere that has a good reputation as hardworking people who pay their taxes, who obey the laws, all of that. But then you hear that there is one uncle in the family or one nephew, or anyway, there's a family member that they never talk about. And this family member they never talk about is either a drug addict or someone who was in and out of prison or someone who may have become successful, but their success never talked about by his family members. So and when you mention this relative, nobody talks about, they even act like they know what you're talking about, or they act very irritated or they're very uncomfortable you asking questions. So now you know, okay, something's off here. You dig deeper and you find out that there was a lot of child abuse and even sometimes even child molestation happening in that family. But the thing is, people don't want to talk about it nor address it because then they have to also have to admit another minute. If all these things were happening to these children, that means all these adults were around, were perfectly fine, going to sleep every night, knowing that some of their own kin were being molested. So that's the type of low quality people we have to deal with. Do you think that same family will be so close knit together? No. They act like these bad things never happened. They deny them, and by suppressing the reality of things that happened in history, they now generate an artificial bond. And this artificial bond is based on a history that never happened. They impute a history that never happened. It's because there's a difference between framing history and denying history. For example, if someone had 10 businesses and every business went bankrupt, you could say the individual is a failure. These 10 businesses all failed. What you also could say is that, hold on a minute, even though the business failed, he still made an effort over and over again. Most people even make an effort. So you can either frame it as, oh, it's bad news, or you can frame it as, well, at least he made some effort, which is true also. That's framing history. Denying history is acting like those 10 businesses never existed, or hide like they were never there. That's denying history. And let me tell you one thing. A lot of families out there only get along because they deny history. Maybe you grew up in a family where everyone was a bit open and transparent with one another and things were being acknowledged. If that was you, okay, that at least is a healthy basis. But I have a question for you. How many of you ever asked some questions to your parents or grandparents, other older relatives, and you got angry or dismissive responses? And the only thing you asked was some more information about some people in the family or in the neighborhood. How many of you experienced this? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. People often respond, it's none of your business who you think you are. What's up to you? When people come emotionally defensive like that, it's because there is something there that's questionable that they don't want to come out. Listen, y'all. If solving crime actually brought long-lasting peace and safety, then we won't even have crime anymore. Look, a lot of people are not willing to have these adult, realistic conversations. Am I saying that solving crime is a waste of time? No. Crimes ought to be solved. Absolutely. People should not get away neglecting, harming their communities. On the other hand, communities themselves should not be neglectful towards themselves either. Listen, solving crimes, is cold cases, is worth it when people are willing to deal with the outcomes. Now, I'm not saying, listen, let me say like this, cold case, solving case is worth it. It is. There is, however, a condition that needs to be in place. People have to give up their fairy tale version of the past. Let me repeat it one more time. Solving cold cases is worth it. Crimes being solved decades later, people can learn from it, all of that. What also needs to be in place for this to go well is people have to give up their fairy tale expectation of the past. What I mean is, let me give an example of the Netherlands. As you know, the Netherlands was under Nazi occupation during the Second World War. Okay? So the Netherlands was part of Nazi Germany. During that time, crimes against humanity happened, also in the Netherlands. Now, there were a lot of collaborators in the Netherlands that collaborated with the Nazi regime, or else it could have worked. That's true. There were also a lot of freedom fighters who were fighting against the Nazi occupation. That's true too. After Nazi Germany collapsed, this mythology emerged in the Netherlands that they were a resistance country, firmly resisting Nazi rule, and they always loved their Dutch Jews and stood up for them. Even though historical fact doesn't back that up, it was the belief that arose in the Netherlands. And it's also led to why the Netherlands historically has always sided with the state of Israel. But now, last year, news came out that digital archives would open to read into research into people who either were proven to be collaborators or were suspected to be collaborators. I believe it's around 300,000 people or more that were suspected or proven to be collaborators. So a lot of the descendants of these people can now look it up for themselves. Now, there were people who already suspected that their grandfather, or even their father, or grandmother, or mother, or great grandmother, whoever, was involved with the Nazis. So to them was not such a big surprise when the archives became available and looked into it and it was confirmed for them. But do we know a lot of people, do you even want to know about this archive? And here's another thing. You need to understand here. Nobody wants to be associated with a bad name, not even evildoers. A bad name or a bad reputation is psychologically draining. A bad name or a bad reputation is psychologically traumatic. When you're associated with bad, if you're associated with bad news or with a bad name, people will encounter you. That association alone will traumatize them. It's not you traumatizing them because you're not directly harming them or whatever. It's that your association with bad news is really traumatizing for them. So encountering you reminds them of the bad news. That alone can feel traumatizing. Now, what a lot of people do is they associate this shock with you as if you're the one who's caused them trauma. No, it's just association about you out there that traumatized them. So it happened in the Netherlands that if your colleagues at work found out that your grandpa or someone from your ancestors were involved with the Nazis, they would avoid you too. They would tell the employer, I don't want to work with this colleague. I either will quit my job or I won't come to work anymore as long as they're here. There are people involved in business who got boycotted because it came out that their great uncle or great aunt or someone like that was involved with the Nazis. Look, I don't condone this type of violence against the descendants. Because, listen, the descendants were not the ones who did the crimes in the past. Now, they should own up that their ancestors did all these crimes, renounce it, and fully become better civil human beings. That's what they should do. And if they've done that, then what else can you expect from them? Even then, even if they do it, that association alone is painful for those around them. But nevertheless, I just want you to understand this. There was this big taboo in the Netherlands to discuss collaboration with the Nazis. Now, the archives are there. They're out. I mean, they're public now. You can go and look into it, and a lot of people don't want to face it. They don't want to look into it because they know that this fairy tale history they were taught in high school, they were taught growing up about the Netherlands being this freedom fight against Nazi occupation is simply not true. So all the friendships that they developed, all the alliances, all the marriages that were based on this fairy tale history will now crumble. Just so you know, people develop friendships and they marry those who are in line with their expectations. They do. I'm not talking about, when it comes to marriage, I'm not just talking about sexual expectations, I'm talking about community expectations too. Women do this especially. So if a woman, let's say you're from the United States of America, and you have this woman from, let's say, from Thailand, and she heard all these great stories about the United States of America, how they defeated Nazis, fought terrorism, this and that. She heard all these lovely, great stories about America's founding, with George Washington, the founding fathers, all of that. So the whole history about the United States she was fed in school in Thailand impressed her. And one day she sees someone from the United States of America. And you look like some of these quote-unquote founding fathers of America too. So this Thai woman, since she was a child, she's been brainwashed into white supremacy. Simple as that. First of all, not every European American is descendant of these founding fathers or those original British settlers from back then. That's not true at all. But anyway, let's say now this Thai woman, since she was a child, she's been brainwashed into white supremacy, and she has this great esteem for the United States. Anytime in mainstream media or on social media, crimes by the United States are exposed, she has a bias always favoring an excuse for the United States. She now identifies with the United States, even more than she identifies with her own country. She's Thai, but she's really favoring the United States. She even marries a husband. She marries a man from the United States, has children with him. Now, during the marriage, while the children are teenagers, now the truth comes out about the United States not being such a great country at all. Even American citizens are calling it out. Question to you. What do you think is going to happen mentally with this Thai whitewashed woman? What do you think will happen with her marriage and the relationship with her children? What do you think? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. What do you think is going to be the result mentally for this Thai woman that was whitewashed, as well as for her marriage with her American husband, as with her relationship with the children? Well, guess what's going to happen? She's going to break down mentally, because her whole life she wanted to be like the Americans. She even went against her own type people to defend the reputation of the Americans. She even looked down on her own type people because she favored the United States of America. She thought marrying this European American man would mean she's leveling up in life, that her offspring will be better off. She had all these fertile expectations. So her marriage with her husband, the warm relationship she has with her in-laws, the warm friendship she has with her female friends, are all based on a fairy tale view of U.S. history. So based on the fairy tale history she was raised with, she developed her identity and she made effort to want to be part of this great United States glory. Now that the glory in her face is shut down, or what if there is proof all around that this glory doesn't even exist? She has to own up she was lied to, that's one. She has to own up she sold out her own people. She has to own up that she devalued quality people around her just to get some approval from Americans. She also has to admit that she actually has low self-worth and she's compensating and throwing people under the bus to get some relief. She has to own up how pathetic she's been behaving towards certain people. She has to own up her own narcissistic, abusive behaviors too. Man, she's going to collapse mentally. And let me tell you, before she was confronted with the proof that this history she was on to never existed, before she was confronted with that, she was motivated. But anytime her husband lay next to her, she was ready to have sex with him. Now, because she perceived her husband to be this extension of this USA legacy that she looked up to. So anytime she had sex with her husband, she was actually experiencing being part of this USA legacy. But now that her husband comes laying next to her, she feels disgusted. She feels horrible. She doesn't enjoy the sex anymore. She feels like she's being raped all day. She's turning on him. And after that, she begins to withhold sex from him. Then she begins to scream at him, fight and argue with him. Then she begins to take out her issues on her children. She goes start abusing her own children and all that. Why? She doesn't want to own up that she should have done her research instead of just getting along with everything she was taught. She can't blame her parents, her teachers, all the other people for her believing this fairy tale about United States history, even though the proof of USA history was in her face all the time. Even in Hollywood movies, they showed it. So the fact that even in Hollywood movies, they show you the reality about USA history, that it wasn't that great, and these Hollywood movies were promoted worldwide as bestsellers, and she even watched a lot of those movies. So how the heck can she blame anyone else for her becoming so whitewashed and even going so far to sell out her own people just to marry some European American guy, thinking that she's better off than him? She realized also that others have noticed all along how cheap her behavior was, and people just facilitated it. So she now knows that even the friends she had in her life don't really mean it that well, because why would anyone want to be with a sellout like her? So she will crash. And let me tell you, the children that are born out of that marriage will now be the victim of their mother's brainwashing. They will experience a horrible divorce between their parents. They will experience a mother disowning them or going off at them, like they were her biggest mistake in life, all of that. And these grown children were now adults, or now damaged adults, carrying this trauma. And this trauma also affects other people in the community. So in this case, you have a foreign woman mentally breaking down, and the whole community struck with it because she was linked into the community. If she was still in Thailand, some village, mentally collapsing, it wouldn't affect many people because she's just in a village somewhere over there. But because she's now fully linked in the United States with a lot of social relationships, and she mentally goes down, a lot of people suffer the consequence of that too. Imagine it's not just this one woman. Imagine you have tens and thousands, even hundreds of thousands of women who had a whitewashed fairy tale version of history, and based on that fairy tale history, they developed their identity and they ended up having sex with people. and they end up marrying men they even don't even like, but just because they want to be part of this legacy. Imagine if hundreds of thousands of women like that at the same time, crashing down mentally. What do you think the effect's going to be on that nation? What do you think the effect's going to be on that nation if hundreds of thousands of women who all hold on to this whitewashed fairy tale version of history now had to face reality and all those mentally crashing at the same time? Go against their husbands, go against their children, go against the neighborhoods. What do you think the effect's going to be on that nation with so many women collapsing at the same time mentally? Mm. You got it. It's not going to be, it's going to lead to more domestic violence, more social unrest, and more um, traumatized children. So you have more adults with mental health issues also. The economy will go down also. Why? Because even if there is an instant economy, financially, the country will be worse off because all these women collapsing all over the place will make the whole country look bad. Because we will say, why are a lot of these women so going nuts like that? What goes on over there? Even if it comes out that these women were low life sellouts, people are going to say, how come you guys didn't weed out those low life sellout women? How come you reward all these low life sellout women? Allow them to marry your men, bring forth all these children amongst you. So now their mental breakdown is dragging all of you down with them. But the thing is, you guys should have never rewarded these low life sellout women. You should have never do that. So even in the best case scenario, that people realize these women are the problem, they're toxic. People say, okay, how come you guys didn't see this coming? How come these women are so linked in to everything goes on in your country? What have you been doing? What happens? What's wrong with a lot of your men in your country? They don't value themselves properly to expect better from women. Are the standards for women amongst men in your country so low then? I mean, it's going to be bad. So do you understand now that crimes being solved, including through history being taught, that it doesn't automatically lead to solutions? For example, let's say now you have a city and you have people from African descent in that city, people from South Asian descent, so from the Hindustan people over there living there, and you also have people from Chinese ancestry, you have people from French ancestors living there. And people act like, well, slavery existed over here, but this is in the far past. Okay, what if it comes out now that even after slavery the enslavement of Africans stopped, that the descendants of those who were enslaved still face a lot of backlash, including from the people from from British India, the people from China, and all the other immigrants that came. So a lot of people in the city are descendants of those that kept oppressing the descendants of the former enslaved Africans in the city. But a lot of people in the city claim they're liberal, that they have no racism over there. But then say, okay, if you guys were not aware of the history, that long after slavery was abolished, a lot of the immigrants that moved over here also helps keeping the quote black people down. You guys in your own companies, why do we see so few people of African descent in your companies working over there? And how come if we see Africans over there, they're often in a mixed relationship with someone outside the community? So when the facts come out, people have to admit this, acknowledge it. And I'm not saying it may not be a good thing overall for the city in the short run. In the long run, there can be solutions. People own up to the history and move on, but we have to own up to it. But what if the people will own up that their great grandparents were horrible people that oppressed others just get ahead in life? I mean, they have a fairy tale view of their own family history. And because everything in their life Even their mental health relies on that fairy tale history, I'm telling you, they don't want to deal with any historical facts. I mean, there are people in South America who have African ancestry. But if you show them the DNA test, you even show them the ancestral lines, the archives, they will scream at you, shout at you. It's like they're going mental. It's like they're becoming psychotic. Some even ready to kill you. They lose it. Why? Because they grew up always looking down on Africa and people of African descent. And they always felt better about them. They always felt good about themselves not being associated with Africa. And now you tell them you have African ancestry. What's it going to do to them? That is a huge humiliation. And you think it's a country's history where it is sent from. So when this comes out, man, you're gonna have a lot of people being sorry, angry. What I'm saying is, much of the propaganda out there in mainstream media and also in politics, listen, the majority of all these propagandas out there is to protect people's feelings. That's all it is. Because I tell you, when worldlings have to own up to things they don't want to deal with, and if for long they've been resisting owning up to these things, and they finally had to do it against their will, they're going to lose it. They're all going to mentally break down. And when they mentally break down, they're going to develop this deep unrest and deep bitterness. And that bitterness will harm them and everyone around them. If one such individual loses it and they become physically violent, you call the cops and arrest them. Or the cops can shoot them, kill them, and it's over. What if you have hundreds of people in the whole area becoming bitter like this? You can still say we can all arrest them, put them in prison, but now you need a bigger police force and bigger prisons. What if you have tens of thousands of people like this? Now, this is going to be unsustainable. You can't just keep building prisons. So now you have tens of thousands of people over the place losing it. So what happens then is, because the corporate world, the companies don't want to suffer financial loss, they'll begin to cater to people's demands. So, for example, is there xenophobia in a country that people are kind of have irrational fear of foreigners? Then a lot of businesses will not hire foreigners. Why? Because they don't want to antagonize their customers who will come into their shop. So now you have racial policies in companies. It doesn't mean that those companies or the ones who run them are racist companies. It could be that they just cater to the public because they don't want their business to be targeted. They don't want to face vandalism or boycotts anything by the public, because if that happens, they're out of business. And a lot of people that work there and rely on those companies for their income also want to pay because they need to pay rent. They need to put food on the table. So they also may get along with this racial bullshit of the public. Why? Because they don't want to become homeless or lose their income. And eventually, there'll be pressure on the government to also calm the people down. So the government will begin to cater to the feelings of the public. For example, if a genocide is happening and it's actual proof, objectively it's a genocide, but people aren't willing to admit this, because admitting this means they have to give up a fairy tale version of history, even though the truth is the truth, fact is a fact, the government of the country will still suppress journalists calling it a genocide, or they will always come with alternative opinions about the matter. Why? Because if the government was just hey, this is a genocide, this is what it is, then they're forcing their own citizens and civilians to own up to reality. And worldlings don't want to be told they need to own up to reality. They really don't want that. And once the government tells them you need to own up to it, people may not go down the street, protest, overthrow the government. They may not do that. But that anger they'll have, that need to own up to reality now, that they don't want to do, and the facts in their face, That anger will turn into deep bitterness, and that bitterness is itself going to be a mental collapse over and over again. You could have a decrease in quality of marriages, a decrease in quality of friendships, a decrease in quality at the workplace. People could be more antagonistic with one another, and before you know it, you're going to have all these people lose their mind all over the place. Increase domestic violence, increase in victimization of children, whatever. Yes, when world links can't get the relief, they lose it. You can see this with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, with the Russian-Ukraine war that goes on. You can see this with what goes on uh, in Busiland right now. Or, you know what I mean, that country in the Middle East, and what they've done to Gaza. You can see this also in the West itself, left versus right, Democrat versus Republican. People on multiple sides have fairy tale versions of history that they hold on to. And listen, some people are so desperate not to want to own up to reality that they're even willing to blame strangers who have nothing to do with their mental breakdown for the mental breakdown they have. Their mental breakdown is that they've based their self-worth by looking down on certain other people. They base self-worth on a history that never happened. The thing is, who taught them history? Was it the parents and people at school? Shouldn't they be upset with them? But no, the thing is, as an adult, they had the obligation to examine things and look into things, especially when there were inconsistencies. But these people ignored inconsistencies because they just wanted to be left alone and get along society. So now they willfully went along with something they knew there was something off about. So now that they're facing the mental consequences that they don't want to deal with, they're going to blame someone else for these mental consequences. They're going to associate their inner unrest with someone else, take it out on them. I'm telling you, this is how it goes. So that's why a lot of countries, actually all countries in the world, they use propaganda to spare the public's feelings. This is really what it comes down to, because governments understand when people's feelings are hurt, and not just one or two individuals, if a bunch of people with grievances, and they come together, they will trauma bond together, and then as a group, they will act out their bitterness. That's how you get these satanic cults and all these weird groups forming out there. Listen, when people's feelings are hurt, it also has an effect on the physical health. And you don't want big portions of your population to be physically unwell, because they need to work, they need to keep the economy going, whatever is left of the economy. But if people are hurt deeply and they don't want to own up to stuff, so it turns into bitterness. When the bitter people come together, there's a threat. And who has to deal with the threat? Both the public out there and the government have to work to deal with all these threats now. So understand this well. Solving crime should always bring solutions and improvement to a community. But because we're dealing with fallen mankind, which is supposed to run away all the time, because we're dealing with fallen mankind, who even become so desperate, they're willing to side with genocide, racial violence, even murder of children, just to escape. That's why solving crime in some cases will even bring more problems. I don't care which country you're in. Every country on earth has some type of embarrassing past they don't want to discuss. Now, if people would own up to these embarrassing things from the past and process them, there'll be no problem. Because a lot of people don't want to own up to stuff. That's why they long for a fairy tale history. And to keep these people calm, the governments will give them fairy tale history to appease them. So when you come out with the real history, with facts, the government likely won't go against you because, hey, you come with receipts. Unless it's way too politically sensitive, they may try to censor you one way or the other. But the thing is, the government itself cannot come out against you because you come with facts that are proven. But oh boy, the common people out there whose feelings are hurt because of the real history coming out, Lord have mercy, y'all. Lord have mercy, y'all. They're coming for you. Okay, let's say now you grew up hearing that your uncle was this upstanding man who always had firm boundaries, all of that. But then there's this woman coming out saying that she was the mistress of your uncle. So the fact is, a mistress. Your uncle, by the way, passed away. You just had a funeral, and now the truth comes out that there were multiple mistresses. So immediately, the whole upstanding image you have of your deceased uncle is shattered. You used to look up to this man. So now your self-worth is damaged also because you identified with his alleged good quality. And now you hear these mistresses talk about how horrible he treated them, even lied to them that he was unmarried, all of that. And you also hear that your uncle had all these extramarital children with his mistresses that he also neglected and mistreated. And now some of these children also now want part of the little bit of inheritance. They also want recognition. Now you likely don't want to say it's not true, they're all lying, or offer is cash, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to believe it. But once people show your receipts is true, now you're on the obligation to own up to reality and give up the fairy tale version of your uncle you were holding on to. First of all, your uncle passed away anyway, he's not around anymore, but the uncle you thought you knew never existed. And it was an image you believed in, but he was not like that at all. Now, if you accept this, you cry about it, go to therapy, you process it, and then move on, nothing, no problem. You may even get along with these other relatives of yours because those extramarital children of your uncle are also your relatives. So now you may even get along with some of these other relatives. But the thing is, what if you don't want to own up to this? What if you don't want to accept it? You not want to accept it, that's your problem. Look, that your uncle was a hell-bent narcissist. That should have been obvious to you at some point when you was turned to an adult. If you were still, listen, children are not expected to process difficult things because they're not meant, they're not capable to, they're just children. So if you were still a child and you believed that your uncle was such a great man, I can't blame you. But you're an adult now. You're beyond your teenage years. You should have reflected and checked what your uncle was when he was still alive and own up to what he really was. The fact you went along with his performance, validating his false self, that's you. You did that. Your uncle was a horrible, shitty human being. That's what he was. There's nothing you can do about it. While he was still alive and he was shitty, the word signs that he was shitty, you should own up to it and deal with him accordingly. That you didn't do that, that's your problem. That's the lack of self-worth, that's a defect on your part over there. So now that your uncle passed away, now that other people who your uncle harmed are coming out to do their story, suddenly now you won't be upset with them. No. You're the problem over here. First of all, you should have self-reflected. Admit your own defects, your own damages, all of that, and want to improve as a human being. You should already reflect on people around you, check what am I dealing with. You failed doing all of that. So now everyone else out there has to shut their mouth, carry their damage just because you want your feelings and your ease spared? Are you kidding me? But let me tell you, there are a lot of people in the world who are exactly like that. They've made up their mind that this is how they see things, this is their opinion, and they want to hold on to it. Everyone else that doesn't validate that, they don't matter. I'm telling you, a lot of people out there, they don't want to give up their fairy tale version of history. And let me tell you, people were forced to own up that the fact that history never happened because they have to admit it, and because they have to acknowledge it against their own, because they have to acknowledge it against their own will. they're going to feel violated, and they may now become these angry, um, cynical, horrible people to be around. And listen, if someone does want to own up to real history and improve, listen, that's not your fault. You can't help these people. What you should do is help yourself in this case by not trusting them and avoid involving with them as much as possible. That's what you should do. So again, solving cold cases, is it worth it? Yes, it is. What also needs to be in place is that people have to be willing to give up their fairy tale version of history. Even not aware it's a fairy tale version, they have to be willing to give it up and improve. But hey, as you already know, a lot of people are not going to do that. So listen, if you are dealing with a cold case, I noticed that there were so many attempts to solve the case, so all these attempts failed. Let me tell you, every attempt to solve a cold case and it failed, it is a block from the public. People blocked it from being solved. That means that whatever scandal is they're hiding is so sensitive that if it comes out, even today, people will be afflicted and bothered by it. That means if you would come out with a resolution of that case, you're going to become public enemy number one. Do you know that there have been journalists, even police investigators that were murdered or disappeared because they were solving a case that people didn't want to have solved? This is quite serious, you know. And it's not that I'm going to tell you all over here. If you've ever been victimized by the public, where it was that as a child, there was child abuse going on, where you grew up and it was allowed to happen to you, or where it was that there's some danger in environment and nobody warned anyone about it, whatever, or maybe it's because there's so many weirdos walking out there that people don't deal with, just allowed on the loose, and one of those weirdos assault you, whatever. I mean, if you've been done dirty by the public, people can still build themselves on and say, hey, it's not all of us being neglectful, just that weirdo over there, man. And oh man, don't forget, we arrested the guy, put him in prison. So in this case, the criminal justice system is there to build out the public's reputation. But what if now you've been done dirty consistently by the community and you survived all of it? Your existence alone, whether or not you recovered from the past or you're still damaged by it, your survival alone is proof that the public there's something social wrong with them. So everyone that's part of that public, or anyone who joins them through marriage or friendship or business-wise, will be involved with people who are out of their minds. But what if you're from a city or from a country that did you dirty, and now let's say you're from a country and there's a foreigner that wants to marry someone from your country, but this foreign woman or this foreign man has a fairy tale view of your country. But so your story, your history, better said, of being neglected and wasted by the same country is not something he or she wants to hear. Because they want to have this fairy tale version, because it's based on this fairy tale history that they quote unquote fell in love on their fiance they're now marrying. So your story coming out will change how they see the country, and likely their whole sexual attachment to their partner will disappear also. So the marriage will collapse. So listen, some of you over here, the reason why some people ghost you or even turn on you directly is because they realize that, listen, you've been done dirty. Those people know you've been done dirty, but they also know if they acknowledge what you being done dirty implies, they'll have to give up some of the things they hold on to. Maybe someone holds onto this church mentality that you have to honor your parents unconditionally, even they're abusive. But then they come to you, and you're very open with, okay, my parents were not the best type of people. You're very realistic and practical about your parents. You don't sugarcoat anything. Also the things they did wrong to you, you admit it. Do you think this individual with this church mentality should never criticize nor judge your parents? You should always just honor them unconditionally? You think that individual is going to be happy with you? No. Because that individual himself uh, is damaged because they don't examine their own people around them. So they themselves also they're enabling child abuse, all that other stuff. So them encountering you, being realistic about your parents, it will automatically expose the type of cowards they are. It will also expose that they're not quality people at all because they allow a lot of bad stuff to happen. Do you think they want to face this about themselves, that they're not as good as they think they are, that they're actually facilitating harm towards children, that they, by not calling out abusive parents? And then they come to you. Even though your parents may not have been abusive, they were not the best type of people either, and you're real about it. So them encounter you is going to conflict with how they are on the inside. So every time they encounter you, it reminds them how dark and wasteful they are themselves. So instead of them being convicted by this, own up to it and improve and be inspired by you, they may decide to associate this heaviness with you and take it out on you. I know it's pathetic, it's ridiculous, but that's how a lot of people are in the world. If you've been the victim of the public, whether or not you improved or not, the fact alone that it happened to you means that they need to acknowledge some things about the community they don't want to acknowledge. And let's say now you were the victim of your community, but now you overcame all of that and you're thriving in life. Your success story will also include people not supporting you or people trying to sabotage you or ignoring you. The fact you succeeded despite all of that means that there are a lot of people out there who are now having mental breakdowns because you succeeded without their permission, without their consent. So a lot of people now feel violated by your success. So now you need to admit, oh shit, there are a lot of people out there who can stand this man or this woman. So if I'm around this individual, some of the people who can stand him or her, they also associate me with them, and I decide they're not like me either, and I may become a target too. Okay, forget about victimization. Even if the public didn't directly do you dirty, you succeeding alone in life, outgrowing the boundaries people enforce on you, that the society enforces on you, that alone is going to allow a lot of people to hate you. Some people simply hate you because they realize there are a lot of people out there who can stand you. And they rather join those people than those people turn against them. They'll rather join those people who are against you than they have those people joining against them. So they'll join people who are hating you just because they want to be next. Listen, these are real topics I'm discussing over here. Solving cold cases is worth it, yes, it is worth it. But also needs to be in places people have to let go of the federal version of the past, which a lot of people simply will not do. And let me tell you one thing. A lot of people aren't willing to hear this, but your politicians don't have solutions. Your politicians don't have solutions. Donald Trump has no solutions. Putin has no solutions. Zelensky has no solutions. Joe Biden didn't even have a solution when he was in office. Stop thinking the left is wrong, the right is good, or the right is wrong, the left is good. Listen, your politicians don't have solutions. The only politicians can do is either distract the public so everyone is a bit calmer, or they could come with measures that will enable the public to escape in a different way. But actual solutions they cannot bring, because solutions will require the public as a whole to own up to reality and act on it for things to become better. And because the public is willing to own up to stuff and they keep escaping, listen, do you think that one politician in office can change that? You think a whole military with weapons can change it? Listen, a military with weapons may force people to behave temporarily on the outside, but it doesn't mean those people have changed and improved on the inside. And so eventually, the low quality on the inside will come out anyway. So your politicians have no solutions. If you're still looking up to these politicians and expect some sort of solution to come from them, I'm telling you, you're right in idolatry for being like that. You need to repent. Solutions come from the Heavenly Father. We all can follow His guidance to walk in the solutions He's given to us. And His solutions may not be what we expect. It may not be happen in the way we expect. Nevertheless, we need to follow His guidance. Are there any questions about this topic? Just let me know in the live chat now. Just let me know. So understand the following. Society itself is a conflict. And depending on your position in this conflict, you will get, let me say this, it depends on your position within this conflict, how people are going to treat you. If you're part, if in this conflict of society, you're part of a group in society that's a high rank, people are going to treat you with more regard. If you don't have a rank or the people you're associated with in this conflict are considered irrelevant, people are more comfortable with bad things happening to you. Society itself is a conflict. Society itself is a scandal because it's based on escapism. Community is people having common values and living together to make it work. This community. Community can be an actual physical family, or it could be just people randomly joining together. Not really randomly, but you get what I mean. Listen. Society itself, or what the Bible calls the world, is a scandal. It is a conflict. It's a conflict against the Father, and also a conflict amongst each other. So everyone you meet out in the world, they're part of some conflict. Don't think, oh, I was born in the United States from America. I'm not from a war-torn country, from Africa or the Middle East, whatever. So I won't encounter people that are part of conflicts. Are you kidding me? You know how many conflicts are in the United States alone? Or even within your own state, US state. But anyway, what I'm telling you here is, look, if you're born again, don't dwell with my Father, you become a target of the world because you don't have the leverage to overrule their violence against you. But it's another thing. Even if you are serving my Father, you're still in the world. You still are part of some groups in the world. If you're a Chinese believer, you're still a Chinese individual. So you're still linked with the China people. So in that case, if there are conflicts involving China, you're associated with a conflict, even though you're not into the politics of the world whatsoever. Listen, normalize, ask yourself what conflict someone is part of. If you're the descendant of people that were victimized in the past, whether it was through slavery or through Jim Crow or it was through ethnic cleansing programs that often happen in the world, if you're a descendant of people who were severely victimized, you as a descendant alone being alive is proof that the genocide or the ethnic cleansing in the past failed, and they have to deal with you and remembrance of what their ancestors did to your ancestors. So that's a conflict that you'll be associated with, whether you like it or not. It doesn't mean you're part of the conflict. If you're served down your father, you're not part of the conflict, but you will be associated with that conflict. So whether or not you're part of a conflict directly or you are associated with a conflict, listen, this is the world you're on. So everyone out there is either part of a conflict or they're associated with a conflict. Question is, can you afford the conflict that you're either part of or associated with? Can you afford it? And I mean, these are the assessments companies make before they hire someone. Let's say now you have a company in Belgium, or better said in the Netherlands. You have a company in the Netherlands, and you have 10 people applying for a position. 2 out of the 10 are qualified. So the other 8, they tell them we can't proceed with uh, to another interview. So you have 2 candidates. One of them can get a job. One candidate is Moroccan, from Moroccan descent. The other candidate is from South South Asian descent. He's immigrant from India, or I would call South Bharat. So you have this Indian individual from South Asia and this Moroccan individual. In the Netherlands, both qualified for the same position. Now, even though the employer as well as the recruiters favor the Moroccan candidate, they realize that there is this conflict in the Netherlands associated with the Moroccan Dutch people, with the people with the Moroccan community in the Netherlands. And because this conflict is so deep rooted and political, the company knows if they hire a Moroccan for this position, and it's a high position in the company, their company, their decision may hurt other people's feelings in the Netherlands because that they may have lose customers, they may have business partners suddenly back out of business deals with them, so they know they may even face financial decline and go out of business. Even though they favor the Moroccan candidate because he's more qualified, they eventually say, you know what, we'll go with the Indian migrant who can even speak Dutch properly, because at least the conflicts he's associated with are not that deep rooted in the Netherlands. So in this case, the employer made a political decision to hire the Indian migrant who can't even speak Dutch properly, who may need to support with a visa support even, instead of the individual from the Netherlands who both has a Dutch nationality and Moroccan nationality, who was even born and raised in the Netherlands, who speaks Dutch fluently. So the Moroccan candidate who speaks Dutch fluently, who grew up in the Netherlands, who was born here, they should hire him. But they hired someone who was far less qualified than him, so that they wouldn't face violence from the public. Don't think that just because someone has their own business or someone has $1 million corporation that suddenly they're safe from public violence. They're not. Unless they're serving their father to the full, they have no cover against violence. I'm telling you, they have no protection against it. So because they and their families don't want to be targeted by the public, by all these people whose feelings are hurt and are taking it out because of that, they now go with what the public wants. They don't hire the Moroccan Dutchman. Is this example that I gave, the last one, clear to you? Let me know in the live chat. Listen, the reason why some of you didn't get a job or some of these jobs is not because you weren't qualified. It's not because you whatever. It's because of politics, or it may not be that the employer or the recruiter was political towards you. They might not be even people interested in politics, but they made a political move anyway to save themselves from trouble. And by the way, if you would have gotten the job and they would have faced bankruptcy because of public's retaliation because you're getting a job, it wouldn't benefit you either because now you wouldn't even be able to be paid because the business goes bankrupt. And you're really associated with that too. What I'm saying is, people don't have to be involved in politics for them to make political decisions. Sometimes you have no choice but to make a political decision because the pressure is so high. Now, you're not a politician. You're not interested in politics. You're not even part of politics. So sometimes you have to make political decisions, unfortunately. But that is when you're in a decision-making position. And that's why, listen, the Heavenly Father does not entrust power to every believer. Because the more power God gives you, the more controversies you'll face. The more power you have, so the more ability you have to get results, the more things you have to consider. Look, a believer who's a mine worker, earning minimum wage as a mine worker, raising his family, he doesn't have much power from the Heavenly Father because he's not even that literate. All things on his mind is to look after his wife and children and to be a decent man towards the town he's living in. Someone like that, God has not given them a lot of power. But someone like me, with all the knowledge and leverage I have, I'm now expected to do more for the community because I'm able to do more because God has given me more power. But it also means I need to consider more things. I need to consider more conflicts, consider more dramas. Yes, I'm not into politics at all. Nevertheless, I need to be aware of politics, and sometimes I need to make decisions that are considered political just because that would be the best thing to do in a situation. I'm not making excuses over you. I'm just being real with you. People that tell you, oh, I'm not interested in politics don't matter at all, and then end up making a political decision, they contradict themselves. Well, I'm not contradicting myself. I'm not into politics. I stay far away from it. Nevertheless, politics is a relevant thing in the world right now. It affects my life, your life. So I need to be aware of politics, what goes on. And anytime I get involved with people from other communities, I need to consider the conflicts going on over there. And sometimes when it's absolutely necessary, I need to make a political decision just to avoid the worst from happening. But if that's the case, I also will need to account for it. And because it's based on reality and proof, so there's nothing to hide over there. But people who don't want to be real about life, they just want to escape all the time, they will ignore what goes on around them. When things get worse, they will side with any political move just to escape. Those people, they're fully contradicting themselves. They don't care about politics at all. When they can't escape anymore, they're not only do they make political decisions, now they're fully involved in politics. Politics is something of the world. We as believers, we shouldn't actually we shouldn't be involved in it. Nevertheless, there are times we need to intervene or deal with politics because it is what goes on in the world. Are there any questions about this topic? Please let me know in the live chat. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Keep on committing to Christ. Hit the like button, share this live, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel. Donate the links below. Thank you very much. If you wish to have a one-on-one consultation. The fees are below in the description box. The instructions are down there, how to apply or how to ask for a consultation. Also, check my novels on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, and I will see you in my next live stream. Shalom.